Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rock Shop with Ralph. My guest tonight is a world-renowned drummer with the band The Rods and his solo band Cnedy. He's also a world-renowned producer that produced some of the best albums: Anthrax, Overkill, TT Quick, Exciter, and Rocks Gang. Wait a second, Rocks Gang? Who's that? We're going to talk about that one. Anyway, I want to welcome a fellow drummer and a kick-ass drummer, Mr. Carl Canedy.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ralph. Been looking forward to this. It's been a while.
Wow, for you to say that, I'm thrilled, brother. I gotta say, man, me being a drummer and the drummer that you are, I couldn't do a quarter of what you do. I listen to your records and I say to myself, holy shit, man. It sounds like you got 4 feet
thanks.
And 5 hands.
Thank you for the kind words. I don't know if that's true, but I do my best.
It's true. It's true. So first thing I always ask, you're in the lovely land of Scranton, Pennsylvania, right? That's where you live now?
I am. Mm-hmm.
And you're from upstate originally.
Up from upstate, Ithaca, Elmira, Cortland area. Yeah, that's my old stomping grounds.
We'll get to the Cortland area. There's a couple of names that come from that area. We'll talk about them. I don't know if I have to see if I remember them. But how's Scranton going on?
Scranton's got a thriving original music scene. It's so much original music, and there are some places to play for original bands, which when I moved here, it was a long time ago now, but seemed like there was nothing here. And it probably was. I just didn't know anybody. But as time has gone on, I'm amazed. And now there's so many good live bands and original bands. So it's a thriving music scene here.
Yeah, you're lucky. I live on the island. I'm from Queens. Everybody knows that. And I live on the island now. And it's all cover bands. I'm in a cover band. I mean, there's just no original music out here. If you want original music, you'd have to go to like the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and you got to play there, which is hard. It's tough. It's tough to get into the music business. You know that as well as I do.
Well, they just had a festival here, 6 bands. I'm sure nobody made any money.
Nothing.
The guitarist in Cnedy, by the way, he has a band
Tony.
called Rosello Project. And they just played, and they're fantastic. I just saw them at their CD release party. Fantastic, all instrumental, but he's a monster guitarist. But they're finding an audience here. They're playing, and people love them. So
awesome.
It's a good music. Yeah, it's a good music scene.
I love to hear that.
How often do you find a music scene where somebody can play instrumental music and find a following? Not many.
The only way that is out here, you might find little cafes and stuff, Carl.
Right,
but
right.
I mean, I'm in a band. It's my passion. I'm not doing it for money. But if you're doing it to make a living, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, and you've got to do covers. You're going to make it.
That's what I said. I mean, you're out here, everybody. Or if you're a tribute band, you make a lot more money.
Yes.
You want to put a wig on? I'll put a wig on, and we could be we'll be a Dio tribute band.
I know those bands. Yeah, and they make money, and that's good.
They make money. They make money. I want to start off. I'll say from the beginning. You're mostly known for the Rods, which released the last album, which I feel was your best album to date, Brotherhood of Metal. I mean, that is I was like, wow, I was blown away when I heard it. My opinion, I believe that was, since your first album, that was your best album.
I have to agree with you. I think it was. I'm really proud of it. Dave and I are both proud of it. And it came together very quickly, and it just seemed like it just fell into place. And I think it's one of our best albums since the first album.
Yes, and
it feels good. It feels good to have made that album, in our twilight years, if you will.
Listen, age is just a number, brother. I mean, it really is. It really is. That's
how I look at it.
You got to remember,
to be a bigger number, but it's.
I know. I'm losing a lot. Look at Charlie Watts. Charlie Watts passed away today.
Oh man, rest in peace, Charlie. I put a thing on Facebook, but it's so true. When I play those kind of Stones, Beatles grooves, Charlie Watts and Ringo are always in my head. How would they play it? What did they play that I liked that I could modify? Always. Charlie Watts and Ringo are 2 of my favorite drummers all time.
There you go.
And of course, you listen to me and everybody goes,
how is that possible?
Guys? Yeah, but the pulse, the feel, the musicality. They're just so great. It's not about the technical, it's about the musicality.
Carl, how about this? The Beatles. Let's take the Beatles for instance. They play with no monitors.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and you as a drummer, it's very hard to hear when you're not playing with monitors.
With Ringo, when you're behind the amps, first time I did that, where I'm behind the amps, I was like, oh my God, what the hell's going on?
Right.
And one time, David and I, the first thing we were looking at Cedric Kushner, we opened for Judas Priest at the Palace Theater in Albany, New York. So we're on stage, and I didn't know anything that I needed to say, put this in my monitors, right?
Right.
So David's got a wall of amps on one side, Steve's got a wall of amps on the other side, and I'm behind them on a drum riser. And David starts the song, an intro, and I heard,
right.
I'm like, when do I come in? It was so embarrassing.
Right.
I just crashed in, but without those monitors. So I don't know how Ringo did it.
How did he do it? How did this guy do it? And they all say, oh, Ringo wasn't a good drummer. He was just, 4/4, whatever. Yeah. I mean, are you fucking kidding me?
Ringo and Charlie, both really cool drummers.
Solid.
Cool guys.
Solid.
Right. And musical.
As Ronnie would say, meat and potatoes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Rods and some of the bands that you opened for. Actually, I want to start off with this. You're a drummer, and you were taught by Carmine Appice.
I was.
I got to ask you this.
About that today.
Were you? I got to ask you this. Did you get taught on the island by him over here?
I did. Mm-hmm. Hempstead.
Wow. So you lived around here?
I didn't. I drove in. I was living in Elmira at the time.
Holy cow. And you drove in on a weekly basis?
And I did. Well, what happened was, I was in Elmira and I picked up the Musicians Union and it had an ad, Carmine Appice giving lessons. So I thought, wow, maybe I could call somebody and see, because he was one of my favorite drummers of all time. So I called the number and I said, hi, I'm responding to the ad for Carmine Appice. And he goes, yeah, this is Carmine. What's up, man? I was like, oh my God, fanboyed out, like, oh.
Right.
So we set it up and I went for a lesson. And then I lived in Boston with this band Colacus, by the way, which I'm just finishing my last drum tracks for that band. And that band was my band from 1974. And we're just finishing a new album. It's like a Hall & Oates kind of band, but I love the stuff, the new album, and that's almost done.
Wow. But anyway, I'd love to hear that. I was
in Boston with those guys, and we would drive in from Boston
to Hempstead.
And to Hempstead from Boston.
Now, was that what Joe?
Take double. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Joe Fuoco, right?
Joe.
He played. He taught in a music studio. Joe Fuoco, Fuocco, I believe the name was.
Markowski.
Okay, it might be earlier than that. So okay.
Yeah, Joe Markowski. Yeah, I had some lessons with Joe, but mostly with Carmine.
Wow.
And but we would drive in, and sometimes the band would drive me in, and I'd be practicing in the van, and must have made them crazy. I guess it didn't matter; nobody cared. And I would take double lessons, I'd be there for 2 hours.
I was going to say, what is that? A 4 or 5 hour drive from upstate?
Yeah, it was from Boston, it was like a 5 hour drive.
And would you sleep over?
No, I think we went to upstate. I can't remember exactly the scenario, but I remember long drives to get there. And, Carmine was cool. If we hit traffic, he's like, it's cool, man.
Don't worry about it, man. You're okay, man.
Carmine was cool. And, but the thing that I liked about Carmine that I'll say, I had my first drum teacher. I started when I was 13, I got a set of drums. So I started taking lessons from this guy, and maybe for a year. And he told me I sucked. He just kept saying, you suck. And so after about a year or so, I'm like, why am I paying this guy? I'm like, I'm an idiot. I'm paying this guy. So for abuse every week, tell me I'm sucked. And he told me he was a NARD drummer, he had his NARD certification. And I'm like, wow, do you think if I practice really hard, I could achieve that? No way, man. No way. Never happened. No.
Talk about confidence.
Yeah, no, he was really building me up. So, and the day I got that was, it was like, not just was I happy that I had, been certified, but it was like an FU to that guy. Like, you know what? You're an asshole. But what Carmine did, I had really not taken lessons. I taught myself. I was probably I want to say 19, 20, maybe 20 years old. And so I had some bad habits. And so Carmine turned every negative into a positive. He would say, oh, that's wrong. But there's a better way to do that, an easier way, you know, less effort, and you can do it this way. Well, that's wrong, but that's cool. Keep that, you know? And so
Awesome.
everything was a positive. And the things it wasn't like everything I did was crap. It was like, no, that's technically, you know, not the way. You're not going to do a 4-stroke roll with your left hand, just whatever. It's just, but that's cool. Keep it. It's cool that you do it. So everything was positive, and I learned so much going through books with him, including realistic rock and all that. But it was really the fact that in upstate, everybody had a big attitude, a big ego. Everybody sucked. Musicians would come out. He sucked. That guy sucks. You know, was just putting every other band member down. And Carmine, I'm like, this guy's a certified rock star, and he's a totally cool guy. Very positive. So my lessons with Carmine, they changed my drumming life. I say it all the time.
How long did you study with him?
About a year.
He's my dream. Hopefully we're gonna get him on the show. I interviewed Vinny already. You know, Vinny's brother.
Vinny's a great guy too.
Yeah,
and a great drummer.
Yeah.
And Vinny doesn't get credit for that. The slow, heavy Sabbath feel he's got, Last in Line, that whole.
He got credit from me. He got credit from me, and there's a lot of people. But anyway, I want to tell all the fans out there that are watching, that are just getting to know Carl. He doesn't suck. He's a phenomenal drummer. I told him off the air, I believe the guy has 4 feet and 5 hands when he plays. I mean, here, you want to start somewhere? Start at the most recent 2 albums he released with his respective bands. Brotherhood of Metal with the Rods, and Cnedy, Warrior. I mean, unbelievable drumming on this, plus everything else. But I'm just trying to give people a spot to go to.
You.
I can go with the earlier albums, but go with those 2. You will not be disappointed. And I very rarely use this. I only use this on a couple of bands called Rock Shop Approved. That album by Cnedy and Rods are Rock Shop Approved. Get those albums.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Carl. So you learn from Carmine. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. No, I studied. Carmine was huge for me. It changed everything for me. And then after that, I got to study with, thanks to my friend Billy Hilfiger, who was working at Manny's. Rest in peace, such a great guy. We all still miss him now after years. But he got me Tony Williams' number, and I started taking lessons from Tony Williams. That was also life-changing, but in a different way, because Tony Williams was like light years from where I was as a drummer.
Tony Williams' lifetime?
Tony Williams' lifetime.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
What was it,
okay.
Right? But you know, he'd played with Miles Davis, just phenomenal, right? But so what happened with Tony, and I got to play his iconic Mustard set, you know, the Gretsch. I mean, it was incredible. And he had this apartment house, and that overlooked a complex, so he owned all these buildings. And I'm like, geez, are people going to get angry? And it's like, no, I own these. Like, oh, okay. So I guess with the window open, the drums in front of the window, and we're playing drums, and nobody's going to say anything because they'll make a move. But he was a really cool guy. But eventually we talked. My lessons were more discussing music philosophy and approaches. And I brought that to a lot of productions because he was hugely influential on me and my productions, because he talked about the pulse and the heartbeat and the whole approach to music and dynamics and so on. And you know, that made a huge impact on me.
You know, Carl, I got to tell you, I'm enamored by you because, I mean, I'm a drummer, not a quarter as good as you, and you're so even keeled and so laid back. And me, you see me, I'm always bouncing all over the walls. I can't sit still. I tap all the time. And you're so subdued. You're like
you're a typical New York guy. You got to be hyper. You're living in that area.
You know, that's how I am.
Energized all the time. And if you're not going to keep up. All my friends from there are like that.
My wife is like, will you stop tapping your foot? You know, but I'm always practicing. I'm always doing something. And even here, because people tell me, you know, you do your interview, I sway back in the chair. I can't help it. I've been this way my whole life, you know, and I'm looking at you.
Me. I'm like,
right. But I'm interviewing you and you're like, yeah, so, you know, yeah, I play with this guy. I'm like, holy shit, where did this guy get it from? You know, but awesome story. And
funny. It's funny. Sorry, it's funny that you say that, because, you know, with the Rods, when Gary was in the band, Gary's very quiet. David's very quiet. Obviously, I'm not like bouncing off the wall too much. And so people who didn't know us, they might come into the dressing room prior to a show and who maybe didn't know us, right? So they see the three of us sitting, talking like this, whatever. And then they see us on stage and it was like, you know, what is it? What did my daughter call us when she was little? It's two mops and a gorilla on stage, like just running around, all the hair and everybody, and the drums going crazy. And, you know, people go, oh my God, you guys were like so quiet. And all of a sudden you got on stage and I don't know what happened to you guys.
Right. I got to say, your daughter is a lovely girl, and the relationship you have with her, because I'm friends with you on Facebook. I see the postings you put. I mean, you can't deny your love for your daughter.
Oh, no, the best thing that ever happened to me. And I went from being, I don't know if I could say, I don't know if I've ever been that egotistical, but I went from being kind of the center of my universe to Aaron's dad. That's what happened to me. I became Aaron's dad, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I couldn't be prouder of it. And she's a great, great girl.
You
great
should,
lady.
you should
And,
be. I can tell you're
we
a
have a
great
good
dad.
relationship. And thank God, you know, somebody told me to pay attention, and I did. And we've been good friends. And, you know, and also, you know, when she was growing up, I wasn't one of those people. I hated people telling me, and I'm sure you did too, because I told you so. Because I told you so.
That was my dad.
Like, because I told you so. What the hell's that mean? Because I told you so. That's like, what? So I didn't want to be that person. I hated that. So I would say, you come to a fork in the road and you have to choose wisely. And, you know, that's, you know, you're going to swear. I can't stop you from swearing, but you may lose friends because of it. You won't know what happened, but it's going to affect your life. Choose wisely, you know, and that's how you know, I just kind of went with that rather than no and do it because I said. It was like, you make your own choices. When she was 16, she said, all my friends are rebelling. I don't have anything to rebel against. So
swearing, Carl. I grew up. Come on, I'm an Italian kid from Queens. Swearing was part of our culture. We're at the dinner table. My father would say, "Would you pass the fucking salt?" You know, I mean, it's how it was. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. You know, the hardest job I've ever had was being a parent. Never came with instructions. Never came with a book. Still learning as I go. I got three boys.
Any idiot can have kids. That's right.
Well, I know we're limited on time, so I want to talk about with the Rods, two of the major tours that you were on, which stick out in my head. The first one, you guys were the opening act for Ozzy on the Blizzard of Oz tour, right? In the States.
We had to do a number of dates. Yes, it was crazy. And
I got to ask, you know, what was that like?
Well, you know, they were at their peak, you know, so it was a wild, you know, it was wild to see them. And I'll tell you, the first night in Syracuse on the tour, Randy was in the dressing room and we were in our dressing room, but he played, it was warming up. And of course he's playing all the arpeggios and the sweep picking and the whole, you know, the stuff that nobody really heard that style of guitar.
He was a classically trained guitarist.
Right. And it was unbelievable what we were hearing, but he must have had a half a Marshall stack in the dressing room down the hall.
Loud.
When he started playing, three of us in a small dressing room couldn't speak to each other. It was so loud. We were like, you just see our mouths moving. That's how loud it was. Plus we were in awe of how phenomenal he was. And so, but he didn't play any of that on stage.
Right.
That was a warm up.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, he was incredible. And of course, the band was great. You know, I love them. And I was a big Tommy Aldridge fan. And Rudy was really nice. You know, he's great. And Gary had forgotten a bass strap and he loaned him a bass strap. And, you know, they were just, it was cool.
You know, Carl, I got to ask, because, and like I say, so far, you know, this isn't one of your conventional interviews. I'm a fan first and foremost. I heard a Tommy Aldridge story from you. And I, if you want, you can share it. If you don't want to share it, you don't have to. But there's a point. There's a point to my madness because I asked a lot of people on this show, you know, as a fan, because it's one of the questions I always want to know. Did you ever come across a guy that just didn't treat you right, or just had a bad day, or was a total asshole? And almost everyone said, I don't want to say anything about anyone. And I'm not saying it was that bad. But you do have some sort of that kind of story with Tommy Aldridge, who I love as well. So if you want to tell,
he's still playing. He's still
70 years old. He's still kicking it.
He's still playing great. I love his drumming. And I have to say, I should be embarrassed, but I'm not. How much I've stolen from him over the years. You know, I mean, he's a great drummer. I steal from everybody I can. So when we played the War Memorial, I think it was one of the second or third night of the show. Now, the first night with Ozzy at the Landmark, it was a big thrill for me because I look over during my drum solo and Tommy Aldrich is in the wings looking at me. Well, the minute he saw me, he ducked back behind the curtain. So I was like, what was that about? That was so cool. You know, Tommy Aldrich watching me play drums, watching me play all of his rehashed, hacked
Stuff
out
you
licks
stole
that
from
I
him.
stole from him. Yeah. And his substandard Tommy Aldrich licks back at him. So the next night or the night after, we're in War Memorial. So the big truck area, you know, where the trucks are coming in and out. He's sitting by the door. Now, a lot of the crew was from Cortland. The Elf, Deep Purple guys, they all came from Elf, and then they went with Rainbow and Deep Purple, and they're all guys we knew from Cortland who worked with us on local level. So Ox was his drum tech. So Ox is there and sitting with Tommy, and Tommy is sitting by the door and before the show, and I walk over and I go, Tommy, I have to tell you that I'm a huge fan. You know, I just think you're a really great drummer. And he does this.
Oh my God.
And he wouldn't look at me or say anything. And Ox just goes, oh, sorry, man. And so I just like humiliated, embarrassed, and walked away. And I was like, wow, jerk.
I know, right? Have you ever seen him again?
I've never seen him again. And
Holy
it wasn't
shit.
like I was trying to, you know, ask him for a stack of hundreds or
Right.
sign anything for me or take a picture with me. I was just complimenting the guy,
Exactly.
and he wouldn't even talk to me. So
I
to
got
me,
you.
I would never do that to anybody. I mean, I'm grateful that when somebody asks me for an autograph, I'm still like, really? Okay. I'm happy to, thank you, you know, but I would never turn away anybody and treat them rudely. That's just wrong.
Now, I know this is your interview, but I want to share a quick story of mine. I've been busting at the seams to tell this story. I didn't have the right opportunity because everybody I asked that question, they never responded. I'm going to tell you a little story. I got invited to Eddie Trunk's 30th anniversary at the Hard Rock Cafe in New York.
Nice.
Ace Frehley was there. Lita Ford, Billy Sheehan, one of your guys from your neck of the woods, was there with the Winery Dogs. They played. Great band. Don Jameson, Jim Florentine. I'm like in awe. I'm like, holy shit, that's right in front of me, you know? This is great. So I took my friend with me, my friend Harry, my best friend. I look over my shoulder and Sammy Hagar is walking down the steps. And I'm like, holy shit. Now, I love Sammy Hagar. I love the Van Hagar era. I grew up on all those albums, you know? 5150, I played the shit out of that album, you know? And, you know, Carl, I don't know how you were, but when I always read the liner notes, I always sat in my room. I always said, if I met this guy, if I ever met this guy, I would ask him this question. I would ask him that question. So this is all going through my head. Sammy Hagar's walking down the steps. He stands right next to me. I just turn around and I go, hey, Sammy, how you doing? What an honor to see you. He turns around to the drummer, David Lauser, and he goes, oh, fuck, let's get the fuck out of here. Just like that. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the drummer, David Lauser, looks at me like what Ox did to you, and he goes, listen, I'm sorry. He's just having a really bad day. He pulls out a set of drumsticks and he hands them to me. He goes, here you go, buddy.
Nice guy.
You know what?
Yeah.
I look at Sammy on TV. He's supposed to be this personality. He's so friendly with everybody. I'm like, I didn't say 2 words to the guy, you know? All they said was, hey, Sammy, how you doing? And he, to this day, he goes, oh, let's get the fuck out of here. Just like that. So that's my story. I've been busting at the seams to tell that.
Well, I think that, I mean, I have a story about Queensryche. I'll tell quickly. We were playing in Texas and David's guitar tech, Mike, the sweetest guy, nicest guy, very soft-spoken. And he was a huge Queensryche fan. So our dressing room's right next door to theirs. And we're all walking up and down the same narrow steps and with the guys. And, you know, we've done some shows with Queensryche and they have a little attitude sometimes when Jeff Tate was in the band. But, you know, they would speak and, but Jeff Tate were all standing there and just standing there. He was there with his wife and so
was in his band now.
Yeah, so it's right. I mean, kicked out of your own band says something right there. But so he's standing there and Mike said, you know, Mr. Tate, I have your book. I have everything, you know, you've done. And I just want to tell you, you know, you're really fantastic. And I'm a huge, huge fan. And he did the same thing Aldrich did to me. Just turned his head, wouldn't talk to him, looked away.
Why?
But the
Why?
thing, I don't know, but the thing that kind of pissed all of us off was Mike is very polite, very soft spoken, not aggressive, not like, oh man, he was, I love you. He was very cool. And he was really crushed. He was really hurt. Like, I thought he was going to cry. He was, that's what happens. And, so like with Sammy Hagar, I think with all of us, when we're ready to go on stage or we're just, you're having a bad day, but I think you have to remember, and I guess you get to a point where a lot of demands are made on your time. But to me, there's never a time when you should be rude to somebody, especially if they're being nice to you and they're a fan, because that's why you're there.
He
right?
wasn't on stage. Everybody was there as guests.
Yeah.
The only people that played there was the Winery Dogs. And actually, Ace Frehley played. Peter Criss came and played 2 Kiss songs with Ace and Peter.
Cool.
Everybody thought there was going to be a reunion. But,
I'm sure with people like Billy Sheehan and everybody, Billy's one of the nicest guys. Like, you'd never have that with Billy.
If you're watching, answer my email. He answers my email. He tells me he's going to get back to me. He never does. He says, I'll get right back to you, but he never does, Billy. Everybody says he's the nicest guy. He probably is, but I know he's super busy. He promised he was coming on.
Busy.
He promised he was coming on. Another one of my bucket list guests. But that's another whole other story. I love you, Billy. Anyway, I want to just brush through this quick. The other tour you were on was the Maiden Number of the Beast. You had like 2 of the biggest albums out in the 80s that you were on tour with the Rods. Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast.
Yeah, that was a great tour. Excuse me. First night of the show, they came in with champagne. Excuse me, and they were just treated us really well the whole tour. Dickinson was new, and people were going nuts. The tour, they loved the band. We had a great run with them, and it was very nice. And they specifically wanted a band from America and chose us, and so it was an honor.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm sorry. I keep getting these stupid texts about the show, and I keep telling them, don't text me. I'm sorry. Anyway, yes. So Maiden Number of the Beast, you're on that tour, and they treated you great. That's great, because most of the time they give you half the stage, or they don't give you the full PA, and you guys work on a limited space, Well,
that's how it is. When we were on with Screaming for Vengeance, all those bands, like those bands we're talking about, they didn't try to screw us. Like, they gave us, we certainly weren't going to get full production, because that would be totally stupid. And plus our gear was in front, so would have been useless to have 2/3 of the lights, but we were treated well, and we had good power, and we had good monitors, and we had good lights for what it was. So
when you knew how to use monitors, right, Carl?
Once, I'll tell you, after that Judas Priest debacle, I used monitors.
Right. Good stuff. Now I can't talk about the Rods without talking about, I don't know if you know, I always show this, my hero, Ronnie James Dio. I got him on my arm. One of the nicest human beings I ever met in my life. I love Ronnie to death. I was devastated by his passing. But for those who don't know, who live in a hole in the wall, the guitarist from the Rods, Dave Rock Feinstein, is Ronnie's cousin. They were in Elf together. I always found it so funny, and I'm not saying funny, funny that they almost look alike. I mean,
very similar, right?
The height and everything.
Look, yeah.
Yeah. What can you remember about Ronnie? I'm sure you have a couple of stories, or you want to tell us something. I mean, just from meeting him. And then I want to talk about the last recorded song that he did.
I have some stories about Ronnie. One is that when he came to record, and this was a highlight of my career, he came to record the 2 songs, Metal Will Never Die, and they were really 2 of the last songs he ever recorded. The last 2.
Isn't that crazy that he wrote?
It's crazy. And, he came and sang Metal Will Never Die, and he came and sang The Code, which was a song I wrote. So it was a huge honor. So he's recording at David's studio, and he's listening to, playing a little bit and stopping it, playing a little bit, stop. He said, Carl, do you mind if I make a little change here? Of course, like, to me, I'm like, please, you have carte blanche, Ronnie. Like, just
Ronnie asked you to make a change.
What am I going to say to Ronnie Dio about a vocal, right? So, but he was very, very humble and very kind and very respectful of my melody and singing it the way I had it, but he would change little things. And I'm like, please change it. It could only be 1,000 times better. But I mean, here's a guy who's going to come in and go, you know what? This is what you're going to get. Screw you if you don't like it. You're lucky. You should be kissing my ass. Just the fact that I'm singing a song you wrote. And so, shut up. And when it's done, there you go. He wasn't like that at all. And the other thing that amazed me about Ronnie, and David's told me some stories about Ronnie being deathly ill and staying until the last fan got an autograph. Even
Absolutely.
though he was deathly ill. He cared so much about the fans. But the other thing was, we were in the dressing room, and before he went on stage with Heaven and Hell, and he was in the room, and he goes, okay, I guess now just talking. We're all just hanging out talking. He goes, okay, he takes a sip of a beer. There's some kind of special beer. David knows it, of course. I can't remember. Some kind of beer he likes. So he had a sip or two of the beer. Goes, some shirts are hanging up. He grabs a shirt, puts a shirt on. He goes, all right, come on, let's go. No warm up.
No warm up.
Vocal warm up. Walk out on stage. We're standing there. At the end of the show, he's screaming his balls off like he's 18 and in a punk rock band, and then comes off
like it's
back
nothing.
to the dressing room like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Unreal. And the other thing was, David told me he was a one-take guy. And so I'm hearing the stories about Ronnie all these years recording, and one take. Now I've produced over 40 albums. I've worked with some great singers, and there's nobody one take. Everybody has little things and they want to do it again and try for this and try for that. Ronnie was a one take guy. And at the end, David goes, I told you. I'm like, wow, after all these years in the business, I never thought I'd see that, but one take. He would listen to it or decide to play it, roll it, and he would do a whole verse or a line, and it was one take, done.
Well, one question I have about now, I want to tell all the fans out there this as well. Everybody knows how much I love Ronnie. This tattoo I got was even before Ronnie passed, because I love him so much. When I met him, I could tell stories about him for hours. But anyway, long story short, the last recorded song he did was Metal Will Never Die by his band, the Rods. You want to talk about Ronnie's vocals, the guitar, who Dave Rock Feinstein is such an underrated guitarist, and Ronnie singing on it, and he's saying Metal Will Never Die, and he died shortly after that. It was so surreal. But go and get that, listen to that track, and tell me that's not one of the best tracks that Ronnie ever played on. I really do feel that was one of the best.
And that
was he
song,
sick? Was he sick during that call? I hate to ask that, but I really would like to know.
We think that, he had been suffering some things, but he hadn't gone to the doctor. We don't really know.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. So we're like, it was not disclosed to us. That's for sure. And he didn't appear to be, but that song, Metal Will Never Die, David had written the riff, and we were actually out golfing, and he was singing it to him, and I went, holy shit, that's a great riff. So we went in, and I dialed up this guitar tone, which is what you hear on the record.
It's so awesome. Please, people, listen to that track.
Very quick, right? And we put it down, click track, puts it down. And so then I go, well, let's try to get the solo. So we go back. He plays through the solo, one take, the computer crashes. That was the solo. So that's what's in that song. And it was crazy. It was like,
so the solo was longer and the computer crashed.
No, that's the solo. And right after that, the computer crashed and we couldn't do any more.
Oh, you couldn't do any more. So that was it. I get you. I thought you meant it crashed.
Yeah, we finished the solo, and then the computer crashed and saved the solo. But so it was like, that was meant to be. That was the solo done. No.
Wow.
And then Ronnie came in, and ironic that, the last song he sang was his cousin's song, and it was called Metal Will Never Die. And, Ronnie's without a doubt immortal, and through his music, but it was really certainly great to have him come in. And of course it was really bittersweet when he died. Yes.
I mean, I listen to that all the time, as well as the album, but I can't say enough about the Rods. Their last album was Brotherhood of Metal. If you want it, you can start with the beginning, but I suggest you start there, because I feel that was their best album besides the first one. I can go through the whole catalog, call, but let's have the fans start there, because I really do feel, as a fan, that was one of your better albums.
I think it brought together the elements from the beginning, where we were able to get really good songs, really good performances, and also really good production. And that's been
Chris Collier
trying to get it all together.
Chris Collier mixed that, right?
He did. And
He worked with Last in Line.
he did. And that's how I found him. I was listening to Last in Line and I went, who mixed this? This is
Right.
jumping out of my phone. And so do some research and through some friends. Jeff Pilson, I think, is the one who got me his number.
Yeah.
And so I was so happy. And then, of course, he's mixed the Cnedy album as well.
Yeah. I was going to mention that, but we didn't talk about Cnedy yet. We'll talk at that.
Okay.
No problem.
And then I have a new album that's coming out, and he mixed that as well.
With the Rods.
No, I have a brand new band, brand new album.
What the hell's going on here, Cole?
You'll start to hear it soon. But
you didn't give me time to know. I mean, I'm only going to talk about the Rods and Cnedy. You got another band going on? Holy shit.
Yeah. This is just about to release. The videos are done and the campaign is in place and it'll start pretty soon.
Okay.
So about the new band.
So the Rods. Last year you were talking about new music and the album's going to be called Shockwave.
Yes.
Is that happening?
It's happening. I've got like 5 songs out. David just finished writing Shockwave. Just today we were talking. He just finished it. It's like a Motorhead type song. Perfect Rod song.
Awesome. I seen Dave when I was I saw the Deal hologram out here in Huntington on the Paramount, and he played Neon Nights with them on stage, and he rocked it, man. If you see Dave, tell him I said hello. I'm a huge fan, and I think he's awesome. Really. So
I'm
the
a
Rods,
fan too, and I will tell him.
It's like, so underrated the fucking Rods are. I get so pissed, and I know you like maybe you like the underground feel, but I believe you guys should have been fucking huge,
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate
As
it.
a
People
fan,
ask me that. People ask me that, don't you should have been huge and aren't you bitter about it? I'm like, no, I think I've had a pretty good run overall. I'm happy with my career. And, would I have liked to have gone to the bank and had some of the gold bullion that, pulled out some of that some of the rock stars people I've known. But I'm happy. Good career, good life.
Let's talk about the next career you had. And I'm going to make this distinct. I can't mention all the albums, but I'm going to mention some. You produced some big time bands. You produced Anthrax, one of Anthrax's best albums, I believe, Spreading the Disease. And wait, I have a question. Was it you that recommended Joey Belladonna?
I was. We did Fistful of Metal, and I love Neil, and I'm so glad Neil is doing well and thriving because he is such a great singer. But Neil and the band, they came back after we did Fistful of Metal. They went on tour, and for some reason, something didn't gel, and so they came back, and Neil was gone. So now they're in, and they brought a new singer in, Matt Fallon, I think his name.
Yeah, Matt Fallon.
And after about a week, I just said, this guy is not going to get you to the major label. And they had balls. They said, okay, call Johnny. So I called Johnny.
Zazula.
And told John Zazula, the best guy in the world, one of my best.
Who also found Metallica.
Yes. And
we can get into that. Lost his wife.
Just the other half, Marsha, was such a wonderful person. Sad loss. But anyway, so I told John what I thought. And he goes, okay, put the band on the phone. So the band comes back in. They talk to John. I leave. They go, John, they come back in. Johnny, and it was very quick. Johnny wants to talk to you. And Johnny goes, okay, put him on a bus, and hung up. That was it.
Wow.
So now we're in the studio doing Spreading the Disease. Half the music's almost recorded, right? And we have no singer. And so that's how I called my buddy Andrew Duck McDonald, the guitarist I did the Thrasher album with. And so Duck said, there's a singer I'm working with, Joey Belladonna. Give him a call. So I called Joey and brought Joey in, and the rest is history. You know
what I want to say about Joey? And this is no knock on Anthrax. Joey never gets the credit that he deserves. Okay.
I agree.
You know what I mean? First of all, I've seen him out here. He's got a cover band. He sings Journey. He sings all kinds of music. This guy brings it every fucking night, and he's a great guy. I seen him out here on the island. He plays a lot.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. And the thing is that and I've said this in interviews, I have nothing but respect for Anthrax because I recognize in them I had a fire, and I was driven, and I was, I wanted that major label deal, and I got it, and it was hard, and
right. You worked for it.
A lot of, right. And so did they. They really had their eyes, they definitely never took their eye off the ball. But the bottom line with it was, I think Joey, in my opinion, has been the voice of Anthrax, and that's not to knock, John Bush, whatever, great, but the identity with Anthrax, for some reason, the way they write and Joey's voice, it is just a unique thing that to me he is the voice of Anthrax. And I don't think I don't know about the press, but I know the fans, I think
I have
definitely
nothing but
think
respect for the guy. And
yeah, who love him in the band.
I feel they came out with their two best albums since Spreading the Disease. Worship Music and For All Kings. The last two albums were fucking great. Joey sang
Great
his
albums.
ass off.
Yeah, he did.
Oh my God.
I've told him that many times. Your vocals are just getting better and better.
And he loves Dio.
Mm-hmm.
He loves
Well,
Dio.
if you listen to the tribute album,
This Is Your Life.
Who was the one who sang? Who was really? I was surprised at some of the vocalists on the album that just showed what a great vocalist Ronnie was, because the other vocalists, as great as they were,
they're not Ronnie.
They didn't nail it like Ronnie did.
Yep, I agree. But Anthrax was one of them. A couple more bands I want to mention, and then we're going to go to your solo album. You might have heard of these bands: Overkill, Feel the Fire. You produced that album. Exciter, Canadian band.
Love those guys. Overkill too. I mean, great.
Yeah, Bobby Blitz. They still bring it every night. Those fucking guys. They're like ageless. Yeah. One of the bands also, TT Quick, who people may not know, had Mark Tornello in it.
That band should have been huge. Right? So great. Everybody in the band was great, and they just should have been way bigger than they were. Fantastic, and all great guys.
Yeah, I know. Mark Tornello, who went on, he's the lead singer in Accept right now.
Yeah. Brought them back to the pinnacle, right?
They're touring the world. Mm-hmm. So, so now I got to ask this question. What do you consider yourself? A drummer, a songwriter, or a producer?
For a long time, I was so involved in tech and writing. I would write a lot of songs and because I play guitar, and I've probably written the Guinness Book of Records, piano songs from hell, the sappiest, worst, horrible lyrics, horrible chord changes, melodies. I just have 100 of those that are just so bad that I just want to light myself on fire every time I pull out one of those songs. So, I've written a lot of songs, and, not all of them are songs I'd be proud of. I pulled out a book of lyrics from years and years and years ago when I was a kid, and I was like, oh my God, so bad. But no,
I start somewhere. Look where your drumming started.
You do. And I love producing, but I have to say that I'm a drummer. Shmulik Avagal said to me, you're a drummer. That's what you were born to do. It's like breathing for you. And I'm sure you know it because you're a drummer. When you sit behind your kit, things are going well. That's it. You're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I love. This is where the whole relaxation and the vibe and the happiness thing comes from. And, so I guess for me, I'm a drummer.
And where else do I get to release that friggin' nervous energy I have bouncing off the walls? Look, I'm drinking coffee to calm me down, Carl. That's how my brain works. I drink coffee, it calms me down. But anyway, over 40 albums produced, the wonderful Carl Canedy. I could spend another hour with him. I got to ask you one question about this band, because I couldn't believe it that you produced one of their albums, Rocks Gang. Okay. Now, Rocks Gang, for all of you know, they had a hit single in 1988. It was called Scratch My Back. When you talk about the pinnacle of the hair metal era, I mean, with blonde-haired bimbos, mounds of cocaine, guitar stacks, and amps, that's what you picture on a Rocks Gang video. They were supposed to be big. Apparently, they had that one little hit. They broke up, and then you do an album with them in like 1997. How the hell did you get to produce Rocks Gang? Of all the thrash albums that you've done, how did Rocks Gang come into the picture? Just quickly.
Well, the same way that Young Turk contacted me. I was working in Tampa with Rocks Gang. They contacted me.
No shit.
And they came. Yeah, I came in and worked with them. We were there for 3 months, and I restructured. And I really regret not having gotten songwriting, because I co-wrote most of those songs and rearranged them for Kevin's voice. And Bo Hill kept all those things, which God bless him, I don't blame him. But, the stuff they did with the Bo Hill album from the demo that I did with them, very, very similar. He kept my arrangements, and, I was paid. I definitely had a buyout, but I tailored everything so they would have a major label success. And,
Wow.
and
And
so
they
that
broke
was it.
up
But they were together for a while. They did
in
another
2000.
album.
Yeah, 2000 they broke up.
Yeah. So, but they came to my studio here in Pennsylvania and recorded some stuff. In fact, their manager just contacted me. I have to go into the archives and see if I can find the song they were looking for.
Really? Recently?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just recently.
Because they've been disbanded since the 2000s.
Yeah, maybe they're doing a compilation.
Right.
Maybe they just want it, but whatever.
Okay.
I have to look.
No problem.
I just did had a Sound Investment Studio transferred 2 songs, which with the guitarist from Harry Chapin on it and my buddy Steve Corey, and we did a session. And I had the tape. I'm the archivist of all this stuff, and I had a reel to reel. He didn't have it, and none of us have heard it in 40 years.
Wow.
We were like kids, and when we did that recording, and that was cool. I just heard it today.
He does a lot of charity work. Anyway, he did for out here for Long Island for hunger, for the homeless and Feed the Hungry. Excuse me, Harry Chapin's Food Bank. It's called. I'm out here on the island, but I could talk for hours with you, Carl. But I want to talk about this last album you did with your solo band, Cnedy. I can't stop listening to this, and this is the God's honest truth. I don't ever bullshit. I told you I wish I would have bought the physical CD. I bought the download because I want to pop it in the car. The album is called Warrior by Cnedy. Sleazy Rider Records, right?
Yes.
And I got to mention this to you because a friend of the show, good friend of mine, Jim Crean, is on that label as well. And I want to ask this question because, and this is no knock on your vocalist you have now, because I love Mike Santasiero.
That's it. You got it.
Yeah. I'm Italian. I can get that one, Carl. How close was Jim Crean to joining the Rods?
Very close.
Right.
And this is the
now.
story.
I didn't talk to Jim about this. I was in the know. Yeah. If you want to talk about it, you can. But I'd really like to know as a fan. Yeah.
So David had met Jim in LA at the Rock and Bowl for Ronnie or whatever. Or the Ride for Ronnie, whatever. So they hit it off really well. And so then David and I were talking, and we're like talking about bringing in a singer. And there was one other singer, but this Jim Crean, like Jim and I became friends, and through a mutual band, we did a show together. And so
Hostage. They were on the show.
And so they were, Jim and I really hit it off, and David really liked him. So when we were looking for singers, like, oh man, he's got to be our singer. And he was really interested in it. And we're like, that's great. That would be fantastic to have Jim as our singer. So I brought Mike up to a rehearsal for a Rods rehearsal. And so while I was adjusting my kit for about an hour, David and Mike, David has 2 studio rooms, and they were off in one room. And so the door was shut and whatever. They were in there for an hour. When they came out, that was it. They were like, that was the singer firing on so many cylinders, like so many things in common. And it was incredible, like how they hit it off. And that's what happened, because up until that point, Jim was in the band. Right. And the next thing I know, like, no, Mike's the guy. And Mike is the perfect fit for the band.
And like I said, I love Jim. He's been on the show. He's a friend of mine.
Great guy.
Phenomenal. Everybody knows this. I promote his albums all the time. You played on the London Fog. You played on the song Loaded,
I did.
Which is one of my favorite tracks off that album. The drumming on that track alone, don't forget, guys, Loaded by Jim Crean, London Fog album. Start with that track if you want to hear Carl's drumming. Besides the Rods and besides Cnedy.
Jim gets Carmine and Vinny. He gets great drummers on his stuff. So,
and he's the lead singer from the Appice brothers as well. Phenomenal voice, brings it every night. His band Hand Nation, they do covers. It's. I could talk about him forever.
Colleen is his wife, is the drummer, and she's fantastic.
Colleen Meshrakovo. Hi, Jim. Hi, Colleen. Hi. I'm here with Carl. We're talking about you. But guys, the Cnedy album is a must-have. Rock Shop approved. Yeah.
Well, thank
you. First off,
I just finished one of the 3 songs we have 6 songs for Cnedy. I just finished recording the second one. I'll be working on the third one tomorrow.
Awesome. I want to give props to your band. Mike
Well, thank you.
Santasiero is the Santasiero is the vocalist. That's the new vocalist from the last album. Tony Garuba on bass and Charlie Rossello on guitars, and he also produced the album. Let me tell you this. All right, I love the whole album, but I gotta give you these standout tracks for me. The first one is Warrior, which every time I hear it, I think of Braveheart. I see Braveheart. I see Mel Gibson running through the field with his face painted blue. That song would have been perfect. Not Even Love. I love that song. But here's two other standout tracks. The first other standout track is Hell Ride, where Tony is singing lead vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this guy can front his own band.
Yes, and he has before. And Charlie has a band called Rossello Project, which is instrumental, but it's phenomenal. So
Italian. All right, Charlie, way to go, buddy.
Rossello Project. But yeah, no, Tony, if you listen to the Gods, I was asked to do a tribute to the Gods. And so I did Gotta Keep Her Running. And Tony was the vocalist on that. And he kills it on that. He's a great vocalist. And
I'm like,
he used to front the band TLC and TLC, I think it is. Band.
Yeah, that's what it was. When I hear that track, I'm like, wow, that's got to be I'm sorry, I got to say it. Besides Warrior, that has to be my favorite track on the album. Yeah. And here's a track that blew me away because it sounds nothing like the Rods. It sounds nothing like Cnedy. You know which one I'm going to say, right?
Attia.
Uh-huh. What are you want to know me? What are you going to fall asleep now? Call.
Sorry, no, I'm not.
We're almost done. Don't worry about it.
The last 2 nights I have not slept. So
we're almost done, buddy. I'm sorry. We went longer than we should have. But I'm enjoying myself.
I love this. So don't.
You made my day. Anyway, we're almost done. But Attia, this song sounds like it could be on any radio station, any rock radio station out there today. I mean, if you listen to this song, you'd be like, they sound like, no knock on your age. No, I swear to God. I'm only saying they sound like a bunch of 20-year-olds that are on the radio today. I mean, it's nothing like it. It sounds like radio-friendly rock. I mean, if you want to call it that. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. That was a song that Tony and Charlie had written and it played for me just as a demo.
Right.
And so when we started this project, I go, we got to have that song on the album. That's a killer tune.
Awesome. So anyway, people, fans, you know Carl Cnedy now. I know a lot of you knew him before, but if my fans who didn't know him, start with the Cnedy album on Sleazy Rider Records. You can go to Carl Cnedy Band, CnedyBand.com.
Cnedy Band, but it's Canedy.
Yes.
CnedyBand.com. And everything's there. There's some videos. You know, you can listen to music.
Merch.
You can order something, buy vinyl, buy CD, whatever you want.
And I will say this all the time, Carl, because I'm here for you. We need to support these bands. You have to buy the physical CD, the download, and the merch to have these bands keep putting out music and possibly to come to play in your town. You can't say, I want to see, Cnedy, come to Lincoln, Nebraska. All right, well, maybe if you supported me a little bit more, we can come to Lincoln, Nebraska. That's just how it is. It's called the music business for a reason. But CnedyBand.com, start with that album Warrior. You will not be disappointed. And the Rods, Brotherhood of Metal, without a doubt. Those are 2 albums you got to start with, Carl, if you want to get into him. I mean, they're both Rock Shop approved. This guy brings it every night, and he's a great guy, and we have to support him. But Carl,
thank you. Appreciate that.
I want to thank you so much. You made my week. You're part of the Rock Shop family now, and you can come back anytime you want. If you want, I have you.
And I'll mention next time I talk to Billy that he should come on because this was a blast, and I think he'd have a lot of fun.
You know what's great about him? I'll email him, and he'll email. No, I'll message him. And he gets back to me like 2 months later. You got to email me. I emailed him. 2 months later, he answers me, just okay. And that was it. I'm like, so what is he saying? Is he coming? Is he not? Is he coming?
You got to figure that he probably did during COVID. He probably did played on 100 different tracks for people while he was home. I mean, he is one of the top bass players in the world. So
of course,
it's not a disrespect. It's just
not at all.
Time to get back to people.
I got you. And I'm joking because that's how I am. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. That's how I am. You should know that by now for spending an hour with me. But it's funny because I don't expect him to drop everything and come on my show. That's it. So whenever he has the time, as long as he got the message, I will be honored to interview him because he's one of my favorite bass players. But
mine too.
yeah,
Mine too.
Carl, it's been a blast. Like I said, you're part of the Rock
Hey.
Shop family now. I
Thank
wish
you
you
so much.
continued health, wealth, and happiness. And we look forward to the new releases from you. And keep pumping them out, buddy. We'll buy them.
You got it. All right. Thanks, Ralph.
I'm gonna send you.
Appreciate
I'm gonna send you a message right now.
it. Okay.
Okay.